"You have 12 hours, Miss Rivera," the voice on the phone said, smooth as silk and twice as dangerous. "After that, your mother dies. We both know the hospital won't continue treatment without payment." I should have been terrified. I should have hung up and called the police. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "What do you want?" "Meet us. Tonight. The Grand Josian Presidential Suite. Come alone or the deal is off." The line went dead. Welcome back to Obsessed with Afro-Korean. If this story has you hooked, make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what's coming next. I've got another unforgettable story dropping soon. And while you're here, jump into the comments and tell me where you're watching from. I love seeing how global this community is. Alright, let's get back to it. My hands were shaking so hard I nearly dropped my phone. Through the hospital window, I could see my mother sleeping, her face hollowed out by 6 months of aggressive cancer, her body connected to machines that beeped a rhythm I'd memorized like a funeral march. Stage 4 pancreatic cancer. 3 months to live without the experimental treatment in Switzerland. $3 million we didn't have. I had $23 in my bank account. The text message had come from an unknown number 3 hours ago. "We can save your mother. Are you brave enough to pay the price?" Now here I was, standing in the corridor of Seoul Memorial Hospital, holding a phone number that could either save my mother's life or end mine. If you're already hooked by this impossible choice, hit that subscribe button because this story is about to take you on a ride you won't forget. Drop a comment and tell me, would you take the deal? I didn't tell my mother where I was going. I kissed her forehead, whispered that I loved her, and walked out of that hospital like I was walking to my own execution. The Grand Josian was the kind of hotel where people like me weren't supposed to exist. Crystal chandeliers, marble floors, doormen in uniforms that probably cost more than my entire wardrobe. I gave the concierge the suite number, and his expression didn't even flicker. He simply gestured to a private elevator. "Top floor, Miss Rivera. They're expecting you." How did he know my name? The elevator ride felt like descending into hell, even though I was going up. My reflection in the mirrored walls showed a 24-year-old woman in a cheap cotton dress, dark circles under my eyes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. I looked exactly like what I was, desperate. The doors opened directly into the suite. 2 men stood waiting. I'd seen beautiful men before. Seoul was full of them. But these 2 were something else entirely, identical twins with the kind of faces that belonged on magazine covers, except their eyes were too cold, too knowing, too predatory for any legitimate magazine. They wore matching black suits tailored to perfection, and they watched me step out of that elevator like wolves watching a lamb walk into their den. "Miss Isabella Rivera," the one on the left said. His voice was the same smooth one from the phone. "Thank you for coming. Who are you?" My voice came out steadier than I expected. "How do you know about my mother?" "I'm Dante Kim," he said, then gestured to his twin. "This is my brother, Zachary. And we know everything about you, Isabella. We know your mother has 3 months to live. We know you've exhausted every bank, every loan option, every possible avenue. We know you worked 3 jobs to pay for her initial treatment until you collapsed from exhaustion 2 weeks ago and lost all 3 positions." Ice slid down my spine. "You've been watching me." "Yes." This came from Zachary, and his voice was rougher, darker, with an edge that made my skin prickle. "We've been watching you for 6 months. Why?" Dante moved closer, and I forced myself not to step back. "Because we have a proposition for you. We'll pay for your mother's treatment, all of it. The experimental program in Switzerland, the best doctors, a private facility, round-the-clock care. Everything she needs to survive." Hope exploded in my chest, so fierce it hurt. "What's the catch?" "You marry us," Zachary said flatly. "Both of us." The world tilted. "Excuse me?" Dante's expression didn't change. "We need a wife, Isabella. Not for love, not for companionship. For legitimacy. Our business requires certain appearances. A wife makes us look stable, trustworthy, respectable." "Your business," I repeated slowly. "What business? Does it matter?" Zachary moved to stand beside his brother, and suddenly I was facing 2 identical men who radiated danger like other people radiated heat. "Your mother is dying. We can save her. All you have to do is marry us, live with us for 2 years minimum, and play the role of devoted wife when required. This is insane. Yes, Dante agreed. But you're still listening. He was right. God help me, I was still listening. We're not asking you to love us, Dante continued. We're not even asking you to sleep with us, though what happens behind closed doors will be entirely your choice. We're asking you to be our wife in name and appearance. In exchange, your mother lives. Why me? I whispered. Zachary's laugh was sharp, humorless. Because you're desperate enough to consider it. And because unlike the socialites and gold diggers who throw themselves at us, you actually love someone more than yourself. That kind of genuine motivation is rare. You're criminals, I said. It wasn't a question. We prefer entrepreneurs, Dante replied smoothly. But yes, our business operates in gray areas. Which is precisely why we need someone like you, untainted, genuine, with a real reason to stay that has nothing to do with our money or power. Someone you can control, I said bitterly. Someone with skin in the game, Zachary corrected. Your mother's life is the collateral, Isabella. You leave us before the 2 years are up, the funding stops. You betray us, the funding stops. You try to expose us or our business, the funding stops. As long as you play your part, your mother gets the best medical care money can buy. I felt sick. You're blackmailing me. We're offering you a choice, Dante said. A choice you didn't have 5 minutes ago. Your mother dies in 3 months or she lives. Those are your options. No, I said, but my voice broke. No, there has to be another way. There isn't. Zachary's voice was almost gentle now, which somehow made it worse. We've made sure of that. Every door is closed, Isabella. We're the only way out. Why would you do this? Tears were streaming down my face now, and I didn't bother to hide them. Why go to all this trouble? There must be hundreds of women who would marry you willingly. None of them would stay, Dante said quietly. None of them would be loyal when things got difficult. But you? You'd walk through fire for your mother. That's the kind of loyalty we need. You're monsters. Perhaps. Zachary pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward me. It showed a live feed of my mother's hospital room, the machines beeping, her chest rising and falling in shallow breaths. But we're monsters who can save her. Can your conscience? I wanted to scream. I wanted to run. I wanted to hit them both and tell them to go to hell. Instead, I heard myself ask, how do I know you'll keep your word? Dante's smile was small, satisfied. Because we're many things, Isabella, but we're not liars. We honor our deals. Your mother will be on a plane to Switzerland within 24 hours of your agreement. You'll have video proof of her arrival, her treatment, her progress. We'll even arrange for you to call her daily. And if I say no? Then you walk out that door, Zachary said. We'll never contact you again. And in 3 months, you'll bury your mother knowing you had a chance to save her and didn't take it. The cruelty of it stole my breath. They'd engineered this perfectly, every escape route blocked, every alternative eliminated, until I had only one choice that wasn't really a choice at all. 12 hours, Dante said. That's how long you have to decide. We'll send a car for your answer at 8 a.m. tomorrow. If you get in, we'll proceed. If you don't, we'll consider the matter closed. And if I go to the police? With what evidence? Zachary's smile was cold. We've committed no crime, Isabella. We've simply made you an offer. A strange offer, certainly, but not an illegal one. Adult marriage between consenting parties is perfectly legal. Consenting, I repeated hollowly. The consent is yours to give or withhold, Dante said. No one is forcing you. But the clock is ticking and your mother doesn't have time for moral philosophy. I don't remember leaving that suite. I don't remember the elevator ride down or the walk through the hotel lobby. I found myself back at the hospital, sitting in the chair beside my mother's bed, watching her sleep and trying to figure out how my life had become a nightmare. She looked so fragile. The vibrant woman who'd raised me alone after my father died, who'd worked 2 jobs to put me through school, who'd never missed a single one of my school plays or parent-teacher conferences, that woman was gone. Cancer had carved her down to bones and papery skin, and I was watching her disappear a little more each day. Mama, I whispered, taking her hand. I don't know what to do. She didn't answer. The machines beeped. The night shift nurses made their rounds. I sat there until dawn, turning the decision over and over in my mind like a coin that only had one side. At 7:55 a.m., I walked out of the hospital. The black car was waiting at the curb, sleek and expensive, windows tinted so dark I couldn't see inside. The driver stepped out, a massive man in a suit, and opened the rear door without a word. I could walk away. I could turn around, go back inside, and let fate take its course. Instead, I got in the car. Zachary was waiting in the back seat, and his smile was sharp as a knife. Smart choice. Don't, I said, my voice shaking. Don't pretend this is anything other than what it is. And what is it, Isabella? Extortion. Blackmail. Exploitation of a desperate woman. All true, he agreed easily. But your mother will live. That's what matters, isn't it? I turned to look out the window, unable to bear his face. I hate you. You'll get over it, he said. Or you won't. Either way, we have a deal. The drive took 40 minutes, winding through Seoul's wealthy districts until we reached an area I'd only seen in magazines. The car turned through massive iron gates that opened automatically, revealing an estate that looked like it belonged to royalty. Traditional Korean architecture blended seamlessly with modern design, curved rooflines and elegant pavilions surrounded by manicured gardens, with a central mansion that was easily 10,000 square feet. Welcome home, Zachary said as the car stopped in front of the main entrance. Home. The word felt like a prison sentence. Dante was waiting at the door, and behind him stood an older woman in an elegant hanbok. Isabella, he said. This is Mrs. Chin, our household manager. She'll show you to your room and help you settle in. My mother, I said immediately. I need proof she's already on the plane, Dante interrupted, holding out his phone. The screen showed a private jet interior, my mother on a medical gurney with 2 nurses attending her and 4 in her arm. She looked peaceful, sedated. She'll land in Zurich in 11 hours. Dr. Werner himself will be waiting. The relief nearly brought me to my knees. Whatever I'd done, whatever I'd agreed to, at least she would live. At least she had a chance. Thank you, I whispered. Don't thank us yet, Zachary said darkly. You haven't seen the contract. Mrs. Chin led me through rooms that blurred together in a haze of luxury. Marble floors, priceless art, furniture that probably cost more than most people's houses. My room turned out to be an entire suite with a bedroom, sitting area, and bathroom bigger than my old apartment. The contract, Mrs. Chin said gently, gesturing to a thick document on the desk. The brothers ask that you read it carefully before the ceremony. Ceremony? My voice cracked. When? Tomorrow evening. They believe in moving quickly once decisions are made. Tomorrow. I was getting married tomorrow to 2 men I'd known for less than 24 hours. The contract was 30 pages of legal jargon, but certain clauses stood out: 2-year minimum commitment, public appearance requirements, confidentiality agreements, behavior expectations. And at the bottom, in clear language, funding for maternal medical care continues only while contract remains in effect and party of the third part remains in compliance. Party of the third part. That was me. Not even a name, just a position in their transaction. I signed it anyway. That night, I called my mother from the phone Mrs. Chin provided. She was groggy but conscious, and her voice was stronger than I'd heard in months. Mija, she said. Where am I? The nurses, they say Switzerland, but I don't understand. I got the money, Mama, I interrupted, forcing brightness into my voice. For the treatment. You're going to get better now. But how? Isabella, what did you do? Nothing bad, I lied. I found a way. That's all that matters. You focus on getting better, okay? I'll call you every day. I love you, baby. I love you too, Mama. After I hung up, I cried for an hour straight. The wedding happened in the mansion's garden, witnessed only by Mrs. Chin and 2 men I didn't recognize, lawyers, probably, or business associates. I wore a white dress Mrs. Chin had procured from somewhere, simple and elegant, and entirely wrong for what was happening. The officiant was a judge who asked no questions and showed no surprise at the arrangement. In Korea, legal polyandry didn't exist, so technically I was only marrying Dante, with Zachary listed as a witness. But the private ceremony included both of them, and both of them placed rings on my finger, identical platinum bands that felt like shackles. "You may kiss your bride," the judge said. Dante's kiss was soft, almost tender, his hand gentle on my cheek. It lasted exactly 3 seconds. Then Zachary pulled me into his arms, and his kiss was nothing like his brother's. It was possessive, demanding, a claiming that made my heart race with fear and something else I didn't want to examine. When he finally released me, I was breathless. "Mine," he whispered against my lips. "Ours." The reception that followed was a nightmare dressed in champagne and caviar. 300 guests, Seoul's elite, politicians, business moguls, people whose names I recognized from news headlines. They looked at me with curiosity, speculation, and in some cases, poorly concealed contempt. If you're wondering how Isabella survives in this world of power and secrets, make sure you're subscribed because the next part is going to blow your mind. Hit that like button if you're Team Isabella. I stood between Dante and Zachary, their hands occasionally touching my back or my arm, marking their territory for everyone to see. A woman approached, beautiful, dripping in diamonds, her smile sharp as glass. "So you're the mysterious bride," she said in Korean, then switched to English when she saw my confusion. "Kim Hyun. I'm an old friend of the brothers." "Nice to meet you," I managed. "Is it?" Her laugh was tinkling, cruel. "Tell me, how does one become wife to the Kim twins? What special talents do you possess?" Before I could respond, Zachary's arm wrapped around my waist, pulling me against his side with unmistakable possession. "Careful, Hyun," he said, his voice deceptively pleasant. "You're speaking to my wife." "Our wife," Dante added from my other side, his tone equally dangerous. "And she possesses something you never could, authenticity." Hyun's smile faltered, then hardened. "How charming." "I give it 6 months before she runs screaming." She turned on her designer heels and stalked away. "Ex-girlfriend?" I asked, trying to keep my voice steady. "Ex-mistake," Zachary corrected. "One of many women who thought they could manipulate their way into this family. They all failed. And you think I won't?" Dante's hand found mine, his thumb brushing over the rings on my finger. "We know you won't. Because you're not here for us, Isabella. You're here for your mother. That makes you predictable, controllable, and most importantly, trustworthy." The word controllable made my stomach turn, but I smiled anyway because 300 pairs of eyes were watching, and I was learning quickly that in this world, everything was performance. The next 3 weeks were a crash course in surviving hell. Mrs. Chin taught me Korean table manners, proper bowing etiquette, how to navigate social hierarchies I'd never known existed. A woman named Yuna became my security shadow, always 3 steps behind, always watching, a constant reminder that I wasn't free to go anywhere alone. "It's for your protection," Dante explained when I complained. "You're a Kim now. That makes you a target." "A target for what?" "Rival families. Business competitors. Anyone who wants to hurt us by hurting you." He said it so casually, like describing the weather. "You need to understand the reality of this world, Isabella. We have enemies." That same afternoon, I met those enemies face to face. Zachary took me to a basement shooting range I hadn't known existed in the mansion. He handed me a gun, and I stared at it like it might bite. "I don't know how to use this. You're going to learn." He moved behind me, his body pressed against my back, his hands guiding mine into position. "Safety off. Aim center mass. Squeeze, don't pull." The first shot nearly knocked me backward. The second was steadier. By the 10th, I was actually hitting the target. "Good," Zachary murmured in my ear. "Again. Why am I doing this?" "Because someday your life might depend on it." His hands tightened over mine. "And I won't lose you to some amateur kidnapping attempt because you were too squeamish to learn how to defend yourself." "I won't lose you." The words shouldn't have warmed me, but they did. A month after the wedding, they took me to a charity gala at the Shilla Hotel, my public debut as Mrs. Kim. Stylists transformed me into someone I barely recognized, hair in an elegant updo, makeup subtle but flawless, a midnight blue gown that hugged every curve and probably cost more than my mother's first month of treatment. Beautiful, Dante said when I emerged, and the appreciation in his eyes seemed genuine. Zachary just stared, something dark and hungry flickering across his face before he shuddered it. Let's go. The gala was a test, though I didn't realize it at first. Every conversation was a minefield, every smile weighted with meaning I couldn't quite parse. But I'd learned from the wedding reception. I stayed close to the twins, let them guide me through introductions, and kept my answers simple and pleasant. Then Hyun appeared again, this time with reinforcements. 3 other women, all gorgeous, all watching me like I was an interesting science experiment. Isabella, Hyun purred. How lovely to see you again. We were just discussing the Kim family traditions. Tell me, have they explained the council yet? Ice dripped down my spine. Council? Oh my. Hyun's smile widened. They haven't told you. How delicious. Dante appeared at my elbow, his expression pleasant but his voice cold. Hyun, don't you have someone else to bother? I'm simply making conversation with your wife, she said innocently. Surely she deserves to know about the family council's approval process? Or are you planning to spring that on her as a surprise too? Before Dante could respond, an older man approached 60s, distinguished, with eyes that missed nothing. Dante. Zachary. His gaze slid to me. And this must be the new bride. Uncle Sunmin, Dante said, and I heard the tension in his voice. May I present my wife, Isabella? I bowed, remembering Mrs. Chen's lessons. It's an honor to meet you. Is it? Sunmin's smile didn't reach his eyes. We shall see. The council has requested a formal presentation, naturally, to verify the legitimacy of this unusual arrangement. The marriage is legal and binding, Zachary said sharply. Oh, I don't doubt the paperwork, Sunmin replied. But the council must be satisfied that this union serves the family's interests. We've seen too many fortune hunters, too many strategic mistakes. Your bride will need to prove herself worthy of the Kim name. She already has, Dante said. Then she'll have no trouble with the interview. Sunmin's gaze pinned me like a butterfly to a board. 1 week from today, Isabella. I trust you'll be prepared. He walked away, and I felt like I'd just been handed a death sentence. What interview? I demanded. What council? What the hell is he talking about? Later, Zachary muttered, gripping my elbow. Not here. We left the gala early, the drive home silent and tense. Back at the mansion, in the privacy of Dante's study, they finally explained. The Kim family is more than just us, Dante began, pouring himself a drink. There's a council of elders, uncles, cousins, senior family members who oversee major decisions. Marriages, business ventures, territory agreements. They have to approve everything. You're telling me this now? I was shaking with anger and fear. A month after the wedding? We thought we had more time, Zachary admitted. Usually they don't intervene unless there's a challenge. But Sunmin has always hated that we run our own operations without his oversight. He's using your marriage as an excuse to reassert control. What happens if I fail this interview? The twins exchanged glances. Finally, Dante said, they can declare the marriage illegitimate. Force an annulment. And my mother's treatment? Silence. Answer me. I shouted. What happens to my mother if they annul this marriage? The contract becomes void, Zachary said quietly. The funding stops. I sank into a chair, my legs giving out. For months. My mother had been in treatment for 4 months, and she was responding beautifully. Dr. Werner said she might actually beat this thing. And now some council of strangers could take it all away. What do I have to do? My voice was hollow. What do they want from me? They'll ask about our relationship, Dante explained. How we met, why we married, whether the union is genuine or just a business arrangement. They'll look for inconsistencies, signs of deception. But it is a business arrangement, I said bitterly. We all know that. They can't know that. Zachary knelt in front of me, his hands on my knees. Isabella, listen to me. You have to convince them this is real. That you love us, that we love you, that this marriage is legitimate in every way that matters. How am I supposed to do that when we barely know each other? Then we change that, Dante said. Starting now. We have 1 week to become convincing enough that the council believes we're genuinely married. For the next 7 days, I lived in an intensive relationship boot camp. The twins took me everywhere, lunches at expensive restaurants where they held my hand across the table, evening walks through the garden where Zachary would pull me close and whisper things that made me blush, morning coffees where Dante would kiss my forehead and ask about my dreams. It should have felt fake. It should have felt like rehearsal. But somewhere between the staged affection and the scripted romance, something shifted. I learned that Dante played piano beautifully, but only when he thought no one was listening. That Zachary had a wicked sense of humor hidden beneath his intimidating exterior. That both of them remembered how I took my coffee, what books I liked to read, how I twisted my hair when I was nervous. And I started to notice things about them too. The way Dante's jaw tightened when he was worried. How Zachary's hands were always gentle with me despite his rough words. The way they both looked at me sometimes when they thought I wasn't watching, like I was something precious they were afraid to break. On the fourth night, Dante found me crying in the garden. "What's wrong?" He sat beside me on the bench, close enough that our shoulders touched. "I talked to my mother today," I said. "She sounds so happy, so hopeful. She thinks I'm living some fairy tale romance, that I found love and fortune at the same time. She has no idea what I actually did." "You saved her life," Dante said quietly. "That's what you did. By selling myself. By making an impossible choice in an impossible situation." His hand found mine. "Isabella, what we did to you, what we're still doing to you, it's not right. I know that. But I can't regret it because it brought you here." I turned to look at him. "Why?" "Because you're remarkable," he said simply. "You're brave and fierce, and you love so deeply it terrifies me. Every day you wake up in a life you didn't choose, with men you didn't pick, and you face it with more grace than we deserve. I don't have a choice. You always have a choice." His thumb brushed across my knuckles. "You could give up. You could go through the motions without any real effort. You could hate us openly instead of just quietly. But you don't. You're trying, Isabella. That's more than we had any right to ask for." "I think I'm going crazy," I whispered. "Because sometimes, when you touch me or Zachary smiles at me, I forget this isn't real. I forget that you're only doing this for the council." Dante's grip on my hand tightened. "What if I told you that part stopped being an act for me about 2 weeks ago?" My heart stuttered. Don't what?" "Don't tell you that I look forward to our morning coffees more than anything else in my day? Don't admit that when Hyun insulted you, I wanted to destroy her for daring to speak to you that way? Don't confess that I'm falling for you, Isabella, and I have no idea how to handle it. You're just saying what you think I need to hear before the interview." "Am I?" He turned my face toward his, and the look in his eyes stole my breath. "Then why does it terrify me? Why do I lie awake at night knowing that in 2 years you'll leave, and I'll have to let you go?" "Dante." He kissed me. Not like at the wedding, not a gentle brush of lips for show. This was real, desperate, full of everything he'd just confessed. And God help me, I kissed him back. When we finally broke apart, we were both breathing hard. "The council meeting is in 3 days, he said roughly. "Whatever you decide about us, about this, we need to be united then. Can you do that?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. The meeting took place at the Kim ancestral estate, a sprawling traditional compound that made our mansion look modest. 10 council members sat in a semicircle, Sunmin at the center, all of them watching me like I was on trial. Which I supposed I was. This is the moment everything changes. If you're on the edge of your seat right now, drop a comment telling me whether you think Isabella can pull this off. And don't forget to like this story. "Miss Rivera," Sunmin began. "Or should I say, Mrs. Kim?" "Mrs. Kim," I said firmly, meeting his gaze. "That's who I am now." "Indeed. Tell us, how did you meet my nephews?" I'd rehearsed this. We all had. But sitting there under their collective scrutiny, the practiced lies felt wrong. So I took a breath and told them the truth or a version of it. "They found me when I was desperate," I said. "My mother was dying, and I had no way to save her. They offered me a choice that wasn't really a choice, but I took it anyway because love makes you do impossible things." Murmurs rippled through the council. Sunmin's eyebrow rose. "So you married them for money?" "I married them for my mother's life," I corrected. "But that's not why I'm still here." "Explain." I looked at Dante, then at Zachary, sitting on either side of me. "I'm still here because somewhere between the transaction and today, something changed. They're arrogant and controlling, and they manipulated me into this marriage. But they're also kind when they don't have to be. Dante plays piano at 3 a.m. when he thinks everyone's asleep, and it's the most beautiful thing I've ever heard. Zachary pretends to be this cold, dangerous man, but he cried when my mother called to tell him her cancer markers were improving. Zachary's hand found mine under the table, squeezing hard. They chose me because I was desperate, I continued. I stayed because I had to. But I'm choosing them now because despite everything, despite the terrible beginning and the impossible circumstances, I've fallen in love with both of them. And maybe that makes me crazy, maybe it makes me weak, but it's the truth. Love, Sunmin said skeptically. How convenient. Is it? I challenged. Is it convenient to love two men who hold all the power in this relationship? Is it convenient to lie awake wondering if what I feel is real or just Stockholm Syndrome? Is it convenient to know that in less than 2 years, this could all end and I'll have to walk away from them? Isabella, Dante warned softly. But I couldn't stop. You want to know if this marriage is legitimate? It's the most legitimate thing in my life. I'm terrified of how real it's become. I'm terrified of how much I need them, how much I want this to work. So yes, it started as a transaction. But it's not anymore. Not for me. And if you can't see that, then you're not looking hard enough. Silence fell over the room. Then Zachary stood abruptly, pulling me to my feet. Before I could process what was happening, he kissed me deep, possessive, claiming me in front of the entire council with an intensity that left me dizzy. When he released me, his voice was rough. She's ours. Anyone who has a problem with that can take it up with me personally. Dante stood too, his hand gentle on my back. The council can approve or disapprove. But Isabella is my wife, our wife, and that's not changing. If you force an annulment, you'll tear this family apart. Is that really what you want, Uncle? Sunmin studied us for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, he smiled. No, it's not. He looked at the other council members. I moved to approve the marriage. All in favor. 9 hands rose. Only 1 abstained. The marriage is recognized, Sunmin declared. Welcome to the family, Isabella Kim. I nearly collapsed with relief. That night, back at the mansion, the 3 of us sat in the garden where Dante had kissed me days before. My mother had called earlier, ecstatic about her latest test results. Dr. Werner was cautiously optimistic about full remission. You meant it, Zachary said suddenly. What you told the council. You weren't just acting. No, I admitted. I wasn't. Good, he said. Because neither was I. Dante's arm wrapped around my shoulders. We started this all wrong, Isabella. We gave you no choice, no agency, no freedom. But if you'll have us, really have us, not because of contracts or threats, but because you want to, we'd like to start over. Do this right. How? I asked. How do we start over from here? Like this. Dante pulled a lighter from his pocket and held it to the contract I'd signed that first day. We watched it burn, the pages curling and blackening until there was nothing left but ash. No more agreements. No more obligations. Just us, choosing each other every day. What about the 2-year requirement? Forget it, Zachary said. Stay because you want to. Leave if you need to. We'll keep funding your mother's treatment either way. This isn't about leverage anymore. I looked between them, these 2 impossible men who'd crashed into my life and turned everything upside down. You're serious. Completely, Dante said. We love you, Isabella. Both of us completely, irrevocably. And we're asking you to choose us not because you have to, but because you want to. I thought about everything that had happened, the desperation, the manipulation, the gradual shift from transaction to something deeper. I thought about my mother, healthy and hopeful in Switzerland. I thought about the life I'd stumbled into, terrifying and wrong and somehow impossibly right. Okay, I whispered. I choose you. Both of you. Zachary's kiss was fierce with relief. Dante's was tender with promise. And sitting between them under the stars, I finally understood what my mother had meant when she said love makes you do impossible things. 6 months later, I discovered I was pregnant with twins. Identical girls, the doctor said, like their fathers. The pregnancy was difficult, marked by complications that had me on bed rest for the final trimester, But Dante and Zachary were there through every moment, holding my hand, reading to me, arguing over baby names. Jiwoo and Mi-sun, Dante suggested. Too traditional, Zachary countered. Maya and Sophia. Too Western, I laughed. What about combining both? Ji-Maya and Mi-Sophia. They looked at each other, then at me, and grinned. The girls were born on a rainy Tuesday morning, 8 weeks early but healthy. Dante cried when he held Ji-Maya for the first time. Zachary's hands shook as he cradled Mi-Sophia. And I watched these two dangerous, powerful men transform into gentle fathers, and my heart nearly burst. My mother came to visit 3 weeks later, officially in remission, strong enough to travel. She held her granddaughters and cried happy tears, thanking me for giving her this chance to meet them. I'm so proud of you, Mija, she said. You found love in the most unexpected place. Yeah, I agreed, watching Dante rock Ji-Maya while Zachary tried to convince Mi-Sophia that 3 a.m. was not playtime. I really did. If this story kept you reading until the very end, you know what to do. Smash that subscribe button, drop a like, and comment below telling me what you think happens next for Isabella and her twins. Do they live happily ever after, or does their dangerous world catch up with them? Let me know. A year after the girls were born, we renewed our vows. Not because we had to, not for appearances or counsels or business deals. Just because we wanted to stand in front of our family and friends and choose each other again, freely this time, with full hearts and clear eyes. I wore white again, but this time the dress felt right. This time, when Dante and Zachary slipped new rings on my finger, they weren't shackles. They were promises we all intended to keep. I love you, I told them both as we stood in that same garden where everything had changed. We love you, they answered together. Always. And standing there with my daughters sleeping peacefully nearby, my mother healthy and smiling, and 2 men who'd started as my captors and become my everything, I finally believed in fairy tales. Even the ones that begin with impossible choices and desperate deals. Even the ones that start with a gun to your temple and end with love. Especially those.